And you can see, as in the current homepage, there's some different projects you can look at. Actually, now you can actually scroll through and like on the featured projects, see a collection of them. Let's say here's one called Snow, and let's take a look at that. So I click on it, and I get to a project page, and I can give it a try. I can see some notes, and I click the green flag, and here's a nice project that someone is animating snow over a scene. And I can see it says if I hit the space bar, I can see snow over different types of scenes. Now I wonder is how they did that. How did they make the snow? Now again, on today's Scratch website, you'd have to download, go to the application. But in Scratch 2.0, there's a button here that says See Inside. So I'm going to click See Inside, and right away, I can see the scripts that are associated with the project. So here's some scripts that are controlling how the snow is going to fall, and some other scripts for the building up of the snowbanks. So I could take a look at how all the code is working, so I can maybe learn some new ideas about programming. I also might get ideas of, well, maybe I want to remix this project, and I want to extend it or change it. So again, it's very easy to do that. Like maybe one thing I want to experiment to try, I see that here, the different scenes they had are all these wintry scenes. I'd be curious, what would it look like if it was snowing on the beach in Malibu? So let's give that a try. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go to the stage, and I'm going to go to the tab that says Scenes. Actually, one thing you can see, we have the paint editor is built right into the interface now. I'm going to add a new scene. There's a beach in Malibu. There, we now have it snowing in Malibu. Now I sort of like this, so I think now that I played with it and we want to make it, we want to make this easy to experiment, so I experimented and I like what I did. So now I'm going to click Remix. And when I click Remix, it's going to make it my project. So up till now I was playing with someone else's project, but now you can see it says Snow Remix by MRAS. Actually, I'm going to rename this. I'll click here and I'll say Snow in Malibu. So I now have a Snow in Malibu project. I'm going to leave the editor. I can now go back to the project page. I can see Snow in Malibu. Now, right now, I haven't shared the project yet because on Scratch 2.0, you can, while you're working on something, you can keep it private to yourself. So right now, only I can see this project. Now, I'm so proud of my Snow in Malibu project, I want to share it. So I can see here on the project page, it gives me an option to share. So I'll click Share. And now my project's been shared, and now everyone can see my Snow in Malibu project. So just to show that, if I go to my profile page, so here's a page that shows everything about me. And you can see in my shared projects, there's my Snow in Malibu project. So anyone who comes to my profile can now play with and learn from the Snow in Malibu project, and in fact they could remix it as well.
That's great. So a question that came up in the thread, how much control do you have over sharing? So can you specify with whom you share your project?
Yeah. Now actually we decided to leave it the same as it is right now on the Scratch website, that basically if you share a project, it's shared with the whole Scratch community. So either you can keep it private to yourself or you can share it with the whole Scratch community.
That's great. So that's very exciting about features related to designing. What about features related to personalizing?
Okay. Right. So I think there are lots of ways that you can, again, sort of take a project and make it your own and add your own personal touch to it. Let me show one example of that. So actually, I'm going to go back into the editor. I'm going to create a new project. So I click on Create, and I see it. And I think one way that I want to show about personalizing is that Scratch comes with a whole collection of programming blocks, of course. Mm-hmm. And one thing that many people in the Scratch community have asked us is, why can't I make my own programming blocks? In fact, as you know, some people even made a separate version of Scratch, Build Your Own Blocks, mm-hmm. because they wanted to let you make your own blocks and personalize it. So that's one part of Scratch 2.0, is that you can now make your own blocks to personalize it. So I'll just show an example of how you do that. We wanted to do it in a way that was really in the spirit of Scratch, where it makes it very easy to just as you're in the process of tinkering and building your project and playing around, you can gradually build up new blocks. So here's an example. Let's say I think I'm going to make a project about jumping. And actually, rather than have the cat jump, I think I'm going to get rid of the scratch cat. I'll delete it. I'm going to load in. I think when I think of animals that I think of great jumpers, what comes to my mind, of course, are elephants. So I think I'm going to have here, I'm going to have a jumping elephant. Now the elephant's a little bit big, so I'm going to get this down a little bit, make it a little smaller. So, of course, one way, if I just want to start experimenting with my elephant jumping, one way, if I wanted to go up and down, I might say use the change y by. So let's say I'm just going to change y by 10. Then after it jumps up, I want to wait a little bit at the peak. So wait just 0.2 of a second, I'll say. And then I'm going to have it come back down with now change y by -10. So let's check out the jumping elephant. So I click this. Oh, the elephant jumped up and down.
That's fantastic jumping.
Yes. I've never seen an elephant jump any higher. So maybe I'm going to want to have the elephant jump along the screen. So maybe I'll have it move 10 steps and then jump. So moves a little and jumps. Or I might make it repeat that. So I could say repeat 3 times. This is like a elephant skipping along the savannah. So now it'll 3 times jump. But actually, this isn't it's not so easy for someone to read this code. As I was describing it, I said it was moving and jumping. But just reading the code, that's not so apparent. And I want to actually think of this idea of a jump should just be a block. I came up with that idea of a jump. So let's make this into a block. So the way you make it into a block in Scratch 2.0 is I go to the My Blocks palette. That's a new palette. And I say make a block. I'll give it the name jump. And there I get a new type of hat for the top that says define jump. So there's the definition of jump. And you notice it gave me a new block that says jump on it. So now I can put that in my repeat. And now it's much more understandable, move and jump. So let's try it again. There it goes. But actually, I want to start experimenting with different sizes of jumps. So this jump is just a certain size jump. And I want to experiment with different jumps. So we can extend the way we describe jump the same way that you could move 10 steps or 100 steps. I want to be able to jump 10 or jump 50 or jump 100. So I'll say I want to edit this, and I can add in an input to jump that I'll call height, the height of the jump. So now it says to jump height. So now I want to change y, and I can just drag out the height. So change y by height. And then when it comes back down, I want to do negative height. So one way to do that is I could just take height and multiply it by -1. So that's what I'll try. I'll put here change y by -1 times height. So now, if I say jump 10, I get the same as before, but now I can just say jump 100. Now, there's a jumping elephant.
Yeah, it really is.
And so, of course, and I could, now that I have jump as a block, I could use it just like I use any other block in Scratch. So that's at least one way of personalizing. I now have my own collection of blocks.
So to what extent can these blocks be shared is one question that's come up.
So in fact, sharing is the third dimension of design-based learning.
So is that a good segue?
That's a good segue.
Okay, so exciting design features
Yes.
related to sharing.
Yes. So I think there are a few different ways that new ways of sharing in Scratch 2.0. Well, of course, Scratch has always had a big part, a big element of sharing projects on the website.
We love sharing.
Yes, we love sharing. We care and share. But one thing that actually hasn't been so easy is sharing things between Scratch projects, like taking a piece of something in one project and putting it in another project. So that's a good example. Like let's say this jump, let's say we want to share that in another project.
Okay.
So one way that we can share things between Scratch projects now is at the bottom of the screen here, there's something that we are right now calling the backpack. So I open up at the bottom of the screen this special little drawer, or we think of it as a backpack, and I can take the definition of jump and I can drag it in here. And although it stays in this project, you see it's now in my backpack. So now I could go to another project, and let's give it a try to see whether I can take this and use it in another project.
I like it.
So I'll give it a try. So I'll look for another project. I'm going to go to, there's another place in the Scratch 2.0 website that's called the Studio where I keep all my projects. So actually here, these are like all the projects I have that have not been shared yet. And here are all my shared projects. And actually, if I go down, look, here's a project. This is a project that I remixed from My Red Neptune, a member of the Scratch community. So I think I'm going to take that and let's see if we might use some jumping in here.
Okay.
So rather than I'm going to look inside. If you have people haven't seen this project before, this is a nice project where the reindeer play different parts of a song. So if I click each one, they play different elements of a Christmas song. But actually, I think what I'd like to do is, when I click on a reindeer, before it starts playing, I'd like it to jump up and down. It's so excited to be playing. So let's see if we can make one of these reindeer start jumping. So here are the scripts that the reindeer already has. But if I go back into my backpack, even though I'm in another program, I could take the script out of the backpack, and there it is, now on the reindeer. I go back to the My Blocks tab, and I have a jump here. And what I'm going to say is I'm going to make a new script that says when the reindeer is clicked, it should jump. And I'll make it jump 100. So now, when I click on the reindeer, it should jump before it starts playing. Let's see if I jumped up and down and then it starts playing.
Pretty good.
So that's at least one way that we can start sharing things between projects. And of course, you could share other things too. If I wanted to, I could go into the like in this project by My Red Neptune, there's the Santa Claus. So I could go into the costumes. If I like this Santa, I could just take the costume, drag it into my backpack, go to another project, and then drag it out, and I could have the Santa costume for another project.
Very cool. Are the contents of the backpack visible just to you, or is they visible to everyone?
That's just to me. So the backpack is something that's really just mine. So you can have your own little private collection of things that you move from one place to another.
Great.
So since we do love sharing, maybe I'll show you one other way that you can do some new types of sharing.
Awesome.
In Scratch 2.0. So to do that, I'm going to go back to another project that I had worked on. So here's a project that's it's called the Cat Gobo Survey. And this is a project. The notes say, who is your favorite Scratch Cat or Gobo? Click by, vote by clicking.
That's easy.
So, well, I'll get to vote first. So I'm going to say, so right now it looks like, it's a tie right now. They both have 5 votes.
What?
So I'm going to break the tie. I'm going to click on Gobo. Oops, wait, first I have to do the green flag first. Click on Gobo, and it goes up to 6.
Nice.
And it's also programmed by, so if I click the others, I'm only able to vote once. So Gobo is now up by 1. Now, on the current Scratch website, you could do something like this where when you click on it, it changes the number. Mm-hmm. But then every time someone does the project, it starts over again.
No memory.
No memory. So you can't save the data that's with a project. Every time the data starts fresh on the Scratch website. So that's another way that we support sharing in Scratch 2.0 is a type of sharing of data that we have 2 different types of variables in Scratch 2.0. One is the standard type that we have in traditional Scratch. And there's another new one called a cloud variable. So this project was built by cloud variables, which meant when I clicked on Gobo, it didn't just save the information in this instance of the project. It saved it, with Scratch up in the cloud. So now everybody can see and make use of that data. So in fact, so even Karen.
I could register my vote.
So Karen can go to the website now. So she's going to go to the Scratch 2.0 website. And
I voted.
She voted. So now, hopefully, I'm going to navigate away from here. Oh, actually, no, it showed up automatically. I didn't even have to. I thought I had to go away, but it showed up right away on the there.
Very cool.
So now I see that. So
real-time results.
Real-time results. So the results are in. So now Gobo's up by 2 votes. Now this could be used for lots of different ways. So doing surveys is one idea. Mm-hmm. Another thing that motivated us to add this feature is maybe one of the most commonly requested features from members of the Scratch community was people who like to make games would love to have a high score list.
High score.
So, and right now there's no way to do a high score list in Scratch because it doesn't save it with the program. But now you can have a cloud list that keeps the information and
in the project.
With the project. So wherever anybody uses it, it just adds to that list.
Yeah, but kids are doing interesting things with the comments and saying like, I got this score, but it was self-report, which sometimes can be, I got the highest score ever. Yeah, so that's great to have that integrated. Yeah. Okay, that's a lot on sharing. Just let me check the question queue to see if there's anything that would, question about, can the custom blocks be shared and used by others when you share your project? So you know how the jump block?
Yeah.
To what extent can people use the jump block?
Sure, so when you go to someone else's project, you can grab anything from someone else's project and put it in your backpack. So you can take someone else's procedure and pull it into your backpack, or someone else's scripts or costumes or sprites. So all of that can be shared, or sounds. You can share all of that in your backpack. Take it from someone else's project, put it in your backpack, and then load it and then bring it back into one of your projects.
That's right. So if you had a script that had a custom block, you would also need to bring over the definition.
Yeah, and it should work. I'm not sure if it works yet. It should happen automatically.
Great.
It should work automatically that if you pull in a script that includes one of the blocks that you made yourself, the definition should come along automatically.
Okay. We love alpha.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we get to the final aspect, reflecting? What are you excited about in Scratch 2.0 as a way of supporting reflection?
Yeah. So we do want to let people not just dive in and make things, but to step back and think about the process of making. And there are a few different ways we're thinking about that. So like actually, if I go back to my profile page, there's one thing it has here. It has a place where I can write about me, but it also has a place where I can say what I'm working on. So I can start sharing more about myself with other people. On the current Scratch website, in the My Stuff area, you can put a little bit about yourself. We wanted to encourage more to say about yourself, but also talk about what it is that you're working on. So that's a way you can think more about how to share information about your current thinking and your current ideas. Then also, if you go to one of the projects, so let's just pick some project. With the project, there's a place, as on the current site, for notes. But we broke out a separate tab with credits, because we also want people reflecting on the process of making it, who inspired the work, who might have contributed to the work, did they get ideas from others? So the credits tab is a place for people to reflect on the process of making it and who they want to give credit to and acknowledgement to of who inspired them and who helped them. So there's some of the ways that in your profile page and on project pages, you can start reflecting. One more idea that I'd mentioned that's actually not here in this alpha version yet, but we're working on, is that, and this time we talked about a lot in the group, that sometimes when you share a project, we were worried that some people might feel, I'm not going to share it until it's totally done and it's already fully finished. And actually, we like the idea of people sharing things. They're only partly done because they could get ideas. Other people could be inspired by it and give them feedback as they're working on it. But that's one reason we didn't use the word published, because I think it's intimidating. If you publish a project, you feel that, that has to be totally finished. So we're calling it shared. And then we also, on the project, want to have a way that you can indicate that this is a draft. So when you share something, you can say, this is a draft, which basically is saying to the rest of the community, this is only part we've done. I'd be interested in your feedback. Give me some ideas. Help me as I continue to work on it. So it's a way to engage other people in thinking together with you about your project as you're working on it.
That's great. So those are the 4 aspects of design-based learning.
Let's review them. There's learning by designing, and we saw ways that you could, on the new site, very easily be able to see how something is made as soon as you play with it. So it really supports you in understanding the design process and easier to play with someone else's code and remix it than before. So it opens up new design experiences. And then personalizing, the example we gave was you can personalize some blocks, make your own blocks.
Very cool.
And then sharing, you can share things, different assets, whether it's costumes or scripts, in the backpack. And you can also even share data now with others who are using the project. And then reflecting, different ways to share your reflections about yourself and your projects.
That's great. So a couple of questions came up about sort of the organization of bits and pieces. So this concept of the studio is very new. And so how would you describe the relationship between the studio in Scratch 2.0 and my stuff in Scratch Website Classic?
Yeah. And in some ways, we took some of the things that are on the My Stuff page now on the Scratch website, and we pulled it apart into 2 separate pages. So one page is the profile page, which is more how I want to present myself to the world. So it shows my projects and my galleries to the rest of the community. And then there's the studio, which is my own private space where I get to, look at the things that I'm working on, my projects, my galleries. It's a place where I can do my own organizing of those things. So actually, we're still thinking about the naming of these. It's still in prototype stage. Whether studio's the name will end up with finally, we're not totally sure. But I think this concept of having these 2 spaces, one where you present yourself to the world. And if we go here, if I go to this person's profile page, as you present yourself to the world, you can have a featured project. You can show this is one of the projects I'm proudest of, and you can put it there as a featured project. So it really is giving you a chance to show to the world what you're doing and what you're thinking about. But then, for yourself, you can go to the studio, which is a place that shows my projects that haven't been shared yet, my projects that have been shared, my galleries. So it's a way for me to keep track of the things that I'm working on.